So, I was on a live stream with Grumpy Acres a short while ago, and sometime during that video, it wasn't about lanterns, but I started thinking about lanterns, and I've been putting a little bit of focus because I was working on restoring this. Now, this was my grandfather's, and then it was my father's, and it ended up being mine. This is an old Aladdin um, railroad caboose lamp, what they call it. And this one has a weird wick, which I pulled one out. I got a spare here. This is some weird stuff, man. This is probably not the lantern type that I'm talking about here, But if you're into projects, restoring one of these is pretty cool because this puts out more than a traditional lantern. So I'm going to talk about lanterns, regular lanterns, and lanterns for regular people. You can see I'm in a spare room here, and I still haven't unpacked this stuff from when I moved in. So whatever, man. I'll eventually that day will come, right? But anyhow, I guess I'll start with this one because why not? All right, so how this one worked. This screws to the wall. This is your wick trimmer. What does that do? I don't really know, but I had to order a new one because I was missing this one, but I had a little clip for it, so I kind of went with it. So if somebody's liking this concept, it has a spring-activated shock absorber system there. And these are kind of like leaf springs. So your movement laterally, it corrects also. So it's made to be on a train, and yeah, the problem they were having on the trains, I'm gathering, was it was shaking around to the point where it was breaking the glass. So one, the glass has little threads on it, so the glass is locked in, so it can't fall off, because that was another problem I guess they were having. And then it was getting jarred so much that this was busting into the lanterns that they were using at the time, and it was breaking the glass. So anyway, wall-mounted lantern. This is brighter than a standard lantern. Maybe it uses more fuel. I don't know. I've never used it, and if I'm using this lantern, that means that the shit has happened and there is no more internet, and it's more of a family heirloom type thing, but I have it, and I got the ammo for it. It's yeah, I've been in the garden today, so it's not that I'm dirty. I just have you know what I'm saying. But right. This started things, and I had a couple of lanterns, and I was like, I did the research, and a gallon of kerosene is like 740 hours worth of powering a lantern. So 1 gallon of kerosene is, let's call it 700 hours. Man, if you could have a battery that lasted that long, I would tell you to go buy it, right? Really got me thinking. Really got me thinking. So what happened with that? Okay. But what does this have to do with lanterns? Just hang on a second, all right? So, get a Zippo. It can be a cheap one. You can get 2. You can get 5 of them, whatever. But you have a maintainable, renewable, here, actually, oh, whoops. I'll edit that out. Don't worry. Some lighter fluid, right? But also, this lantern thing begins with alcohol stoves, and I don't want to get in the alcohol stove rabbit hole because there's a bunch of different kinds, and I have some little ones that I'm probably going to go over, but the real ones, like the hobo stoves and stuff, you know what I'm talking about. You can make them out of cans and all that other stuff, but flasks, funnels, and more importantly, and I got a thing with the wicks and the flints and all that stuff. I don't know where it's at right now. I got to go dig it up. But anyway, some of these that you don't use on the regular that you can use in the pinch, in the shift, when all your Bic lighters die. This one's going to keep on going. It's not optimal for now because a Bic lighter is like 80 cents, if you buy enough of them. And, if you buy them in bulk, you can get them cheaper than $1 a piece. And just use those, right? But have one of these, or 2, or 3, or 4. There's going to be a time, if this lasts long enough, and Selco, Saint Selco of Prepperdom will tell you, lighters is the way to go. Now, alcohol stoves, even these lighters, you can run on stuff that is rather unorthodox. In fact, while I'm bringing it up, might as well go all the way, right? So these flasks can hold alcohol as well as booze. I got a few different kinds just to show you. If you're into this kind of shit, you're doing the tactical thing, these Stanley ones, you can get these at like Walmart and stuff. They fit perfectly in a regular USGI mag pouch, So if you're in that Feldlager, you might want to pick up 1 or 2 of these. But anyway, remember COVID? Remember how fun that was? Yeah. So the active ingredient in here is 80% alcohol. So remember when everybody was making hand sanitizer, like that was their thing, to give back to the people and all that crap? Well, it's in a, classic hobo train hopper little plastic booze bottle, right? But it's 80% alcohol. Now, 80% alcohol is not ideal for an alcohol stove. But the cheap stuff that you probably bought at the store that you're like, it works, but it could be better, that's 75%. It's 5% better than the stuff that you bought because you didn't read the label. And the better stuff that you use is 91%. So it's in between 75 and 91. This is usable stuff. So if you have these, you can power an alcohol stove with this. If you don't have a lantern and you're just stuck on the alcohol stove stage of the game here, you should have this, So anyway, moving on, back to lanterns, back to the original topic here. Kind of got stuck on a little rabbit hole there for a second, but I think you get the picture now. This guy's not really crazy about me taking up his hangout spot to make videos, but dude, are you in there? There you are. Hey, buddy. How you doing, buddy? Yeah. Oh, Bieber boy. His name was Balloon Head, but when I got him fixed in Afghanistan so I could send him home, the vet that fixed him said that she wouldn't do it if he was called Balloon Head, so then I had to call him BH, and then he became BH. Well, BH is kind of a dumb name, and he started just being called B, and then Bieber, and Bieber Boy. So he's not named after Justin Bieber, but we call him Bieber. This has nothing to do with lanterns. I apologize. Okay. We're going to start with fuel. Tiki Torch fuel is not lamp oil. Okay. You can have this stuff. And actually, if you have the small lantern type stuff that uses the round wick instead of the flat wick, you can get away with using this stuff. But I will say one thing about citronella before we go any further here. If you use this on something indoors, you're basically emitting a chemical weapon and you are going to regret it for the rest of your life. And whatever, not the rest of your life, but you know what I'm saying. And whatever device you use to burn this stuff, it's going to smell like this stuff for a long time. Like you pretty much ruined it. If you have a designated outside type deal, you could get away with this. That's why I do have a little bit of it. So whatever. Then you have your lamp oil, kerosene alternatives, actual like, you know, kerosene and paraffin. Well, let's talk about that stuff real quick. Okay, so paraffin. Paraffin would be superior to kerosene if it was a perfect world, but it's not. So if you have a larger wick in a lantern, you don't want to use paraffin because it can get gummed up and stuff. It deals with freezing a little. Actually, kerosene and paraffin, they're pretty close if we're talking about behavior when it's frozen. But your output is going to be better using paraffin over kerosene, except it's too thick and it's too waxy. On the bigger systems, you're going to get hung up on some stuff using paraffin. This is for small. They say you can get away with using these on 1/2-inch wicks, but you're going to see here in a minute the difference between a 1/2-inch wick and like a regular wick. If you're just getting a small 1/2-inch lantern, you could get away with using paraffin in it, and you would get more output from it, you know? And I mean, if it wasn't worth having, I wouldn't have it. This isn't, you know, I got stuff stockpiled. This is kind of like running inventory type stuff. Kerosene alternative. What is that? You know what? I don't know, but I have it. I haven't used it yet. But this is what everybody always, this is the old regular, right? It's still even in the old metal can, you know what I'm saying? This is the probably industry standard of what people use when they're using lanterns and lamp type devices, you know what I mean? So there it is. Always have a funnel nearby, right? And then going back to your little bottles of lamp oil, these, they don't like, and they don't suggest you using these in the smaller systems where paraffin shines. They don't want you to use these because it produces too much soot because it's thinner and you'll get more burn, right? Paraffin is waxier and burns itself better and more efficiently. So you want the runnier stuff in the big systems and the thicker stuff in your smaller systems. And then this one's a wild card. I don't know how this will behave because I bought it, but I've never used this particular kind before, so I don't know. And then to recap, Tiki Torch fuel, usually bad, you know? So if you have this stuff and you have Tiki Torches, like the actual stuff it's made for, oh, great. But you never want to burn that crap inside. You'll smoke yourself out, and it's terrible. It's horrible. So anyway, I didn't mean to turn this into a lecture about oils and fuels and kerosene and paraffin and all that crap, but it's a good place to start, right? Okay, we're going to take a look at these, and I'll kind of explain some of this stuff a little. So this one is an antique. It's a Dietz. Look, it's shiny. Oh, it's so cool. Yeah. There's really, if you're just getting into this and you're like, man, I need some lanterns, don't buy one of these. You know, this is just flex on the pores. I have an antique lantern. You know, I forget how much I paid for this, but you know, they're in the like $30 to $50, you know. And I think I paid $30. I got a good deal on it, so I went with it. But let me show you something. What's the difference between this one and this one? Like almost nothing, you know? This is like, we're $10, $15 on Temu. If you play your cards right. 1/2-inch wick. Basically same size glass. It even comes with a Doughboy helmet. Look at this thing. That's pretty cool. It's the same thing. we're probably getting more into what people are familiar with. This is the classic lantern, you know, that people get. Now the globe is bigger than these small Dietz types. Sometimes that means it can throw a little more light. Sometimes it doesn't. You know, it comes down to fuel and how efficient your actual like mechanism is in here. You know, these tend to be kind of cheap. Kinetic Peacemaker from Exfil Enterprises gave me this one. You know, I've got two just like this still in plastic packed somewhere, and I haven't found them yet. So yeah, I mean, I have more of those, but you can never have too many lanterns because, I mean, if we go back to the Stone Age, this is going to be, it's going to be it right here, you know. And you always have a no power solution as long as you have the ability to light it. And speaking of which, you know, if you're going to do this, have your little baggie, because matches are kind of harder to find these days. And these wooden matches make lighting these things so much easier. You know, have some spare wicks in there. And wicks can be different sizes. There's actually a size bigger than this too. And let me see if I can show you the difference there. I mean, if you can see that, that's a noticeable difference in thickness. So make sure you got the right stuff, I guess, is the next part. But yeah, these are your classics. I mean, this type of lantern right here is one of those $9.99. You can get them on sale on any prepping or hardware store or anything. I mean, if you ever find one for cheap, pick it up. Even if you never take it out of the plastic, like this one hasn't been, you know, it seems like I'm an ungrateful person because someone gave me something and I left it in the plastic. But guess what? That's kind of a compliment because, like, I'm going to be thinking about that guy when I bust this thing out and hand it to somebody. So, you know, that's how that goes. All right, so this is more than likely going to be the last lantern that I talk about here. Because we're just talking about regular powered kerosene / paraffin lanterns. You know, this one takes a bigger wick and puts out a little more heat. And this one, I did a video on this one before. It has a cook top on it. Now, this is not a microwave. It's not an air fryer. If you think you're going to survive on this alone, you're going to be kind of disappointed in the performance of this as a cook source. But the fact that you're utilizing heat that you're already using and channeling it to something else, you know, coffee and ramen noodle type stuff, you could do all day long on this kind of thing. And that's why I got it. You can find these if you look around. They're in like the probably $50 range, you know. If you're going to spend $50 on a lantern, instead of getting an antique lantern like I showed you before, you'd be way better off getting something dual function like this. This is like the prepper law. You want everything you get to have more than one function. It's kind of a tabletop unit. You know, it has a really big base, which is cool. That's great, you know. But it limits it in other ways. If you just want to like hang it off a wall or something, this isn't really the one. This isn't the one you want for that. Now, it's got a thing to where you could do it, you know. But yeah, this one, this is the one that goes all day long and sits on the table. It has a massive fuel source. It takes a bigger wick. This one's made to, this is your mule that does the daily work, you know. And you can have your coffee on here. This has Sergeant of the Guard written all over it. You know what I'm saying? So if I'm putting into perspective the gambit of what's out there, it all depends on what you want to do. You know, super portable, smaller wick, smaller fuel size or capacity, but it produces light. If that's all you're really looking for, this might be all you need. To the big kahuna type here that does more than one thing. It's clearly made to be a long haul type lantern, you know. The answer is you probably need both, you know, to be honest. But if you only had to pick one, you know, your lifestyle and your needs could probably tell you which way to go on that, you know. But me, I dabble and I pick them up whenever I can get one for cheap, you know. And I've gotten expensive ones because I could get them cheaper. But I mean, performance wise, you know, your Wish.com, Temu lanterns are really doing the same thing that the other ones are doing, you know. And if you want to cut corners and pick things up for cheap, you know, as a prepper who's looking at 100 other things to do, you can find these for cheap, and they're new constructed and they work. That there is a quality difference between you know, those German lanterns and, like, you know, the Aladdin lanterns. That caboose lantern, that's a relic of bygone days. You know, they just don't make them like that anymore. You're not going to get one of those new manufactured that I know of. And if you can score one of those, usually you have to put them together piece by piece and get functional stuff as you go. And it's worth it. And the rewards are there. Not only is it kind of cool to do and you sort of bond with it, but like the output is there. You know, I mean, that was probably one of the last lantern type devices that was issued as a light source. You know, the Railroad, I think, was the last to give those up. And you could tell the sophistication's there. You can see that it was the end of the line, where when the efficiency got to max peak performance is also when things start becoming obsolete. And look at gas engines. We're talking about replacing them with electronic vehicles, but the emissions and the fuel efficiency and all that stuff, it's like we've perfected the gas engine, and now we're talking about getting rid of them. Hey, whatever. I don't make the rules. I'm just talking about lanterns. I'm just a guy over here talking about lanterns.